5 years ago, New Orleans experienced one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history. While the city escaped a direct hit by Hurricane Katrina, rising waters breached the levees surrounding the city, leaving 80% of New Orleans underwater. All of the works, schools, and even the province offices of the Jesuits in New Orleans were directly impacted by Katrina. While Jesuit schools like Loyola University and Good Shepherd Nativity were both spared from the worst of the flooding, they still had to deal with their students being scattered across the country, just like Jesuit High School, which was underwater. Café Reconcile, a Jesuit work providing employment training to New Orleans youth, found all of its young employees displaced. The Harry Thompson Center, a day shelter for the homeless located next to the Jesuit church in downtown New Orleans, was forced to close its flood-damaged building and was never able to return to that location. But for all the impediments and obstacles that each faced, they knew they had to help the devastated citizens of New Orleans in any way possible.
We've been in New Orleans in times of crisis and difficulty, and that has been in each of those institutions that we have, Harry Thompson Center, the Good Shepherd School, Loyola Jesuit High School, all these institutions, each in its own way, has been something to lift up people, to encourage them, to give them the resilience that they need, to call forth that resilience that they need to show. The Jesuits felt a tremendous sense of urgency and responsibility to return to the city, to continue the work so that the people we serve can themselves return. Let's get back to serve the spiritual and moral needs of the people.
The devastation we all know. Everybody can say whether they were from New Orleans or they were stuck in New Orleans or they lived in Iowa like I did at the time, was glued to the TV watching the people and the horrific images.
The children, once we got them back, we had to send them through counseling. I mean, you know, people think about all the grown-ups went through, but you think about these children that were moved 2 and 3 and 4 times in a 6-month period.
Well, Hurricane Katrina, when it came in August of '05, flooded the area around our previous location. It was in water for 2 or 3 weeks, and that whole block had, you know, a foot of water in it. And so it became an unusable space. Mold grew up the walls. The irony is a homeless shelter became homeless.
Today, New Orleans is a city rebuilding. While there have been tremendous challenges and the city's population has yet to return to its pre-Katrina numbers, there's a feeling of hope and encouragement for the rebirth of the city.
We're not rebuilding anymore, we're creating. And so I think that's the gift that Katrina gave, is that people had to work together. Nonprofits and kind of the idea of us working in silos together and just having kind of the master of it all really called forth for people to work together and to say, what do you have? I have this, you have this, let's come on and work together.
Survival is no longer our concern. Now we focus on sustainability in the long term, the next 10 years. Our plans for the future are really to continue to review constantly our sustainability, for us to reach out, find partnerships with similar organizations and similar missions that we have. No one, we don't think, can make it on their own.
After Katrina, the Jesuits were the ones who realized that this service was so important. And so it was the Jesuits who came to the other partners to say, can we make this happen? How can we work together to continue the Jesuit presence in helping the needy?
So Café Reconcile is doing a lot right now, but we got a long way to go with where it is that we want to be, you know, individually and collectively. And the good part about it is all the individual parts all have the same long-term goal in mind. So it helps us to all work together. And that allows us to work with other entities in the city, you know, and that just not be one of those entities that we doing what we do, y'all do what y'all do. You know, we're not one of those type of missions. Our mission involves not just the people, the young people, but it involves the whole city as a whole.
I think we've made some major strides in 5 years. I think we still have a good, I would say, 5 years ahead of us in terms of the recovery. And so there are still lots of opportunities in almost every aspect of life to get involved in things. I mean, literally, we're rebuilding governmental structures, healthcare structures, education structures. So all the major fabric of society in any given city are being rebuilt and renewed at this point. The whole city is like a laboratory in many ways.
I think that's the one thing about New Orleans is that I'm excited about, is that it's a place where creative things are going to teach the rest of the country. We're going to do it in education, we're going to do it in government, we're going to do it in social innovation.
I think what the Katrina did, it brought us together because we're, in a sense, all in the same circumstances. And we couldn't turn to our neighbor and say, look how bad I've got it, when, well, he's in the same situation. So this sense of pulling together, working together, really helped the city and grow into a more optimistic way. I think there's a desire to not just rebuild the city, but form the city into a better place to live.
Before Katrina, this area right here was chaos. And right now it's peace. You can walk down the street, you can read a newspaper sitting at the bus stop. It makes people feel comfortable to walk down and read the Castle Herald without thinking they're gonna get robbed, without thinking, you know, somebody gonna try to sell them some type of drugs or something. It's wonderful.
Katrina sort of brought people together in a way that hadn't happened before. And I think by and large, people are still very hopeful that we're sort of at a new place in time, that all these people who are beginning to rebuild now, all the waiting is over. On one level, there are all sorts of hope. Enter the oil spill. The oil spill has just sort of introduced just an unknown. As much as we can right now, people are still focused on hoping that the damage is minimal. So there's not denial, there's simply the fact that you can't react, you don't know how to react until you know what the extent of the damage is. They learned from Katrina that you can lose everything and life doesn't end. They learned from Katrina that the most important things they had were their family connections and their friends. And they're never going to let that go again. New Orleans has always been a place that believed more in living than in dying.